All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Fruits Basket, Season 1, Episode 24. Oh boy.
One
Kyo's
more
Master.
episode after this in the first season.
Yep. Yeah, if we get some Kyo backstory here, I would love that. Because
I would
we
really
had
love that, yeah.
a lot of mystery built up to like the whole situation that he has that we don't fully know, but like a bunch of other people know, including Kagura. And Kagura was there last episode, and she was actually really likable, which was a bit confusing. And then Tohru got sick, and Kyo took care of her and everything. And why was the hat? Why did that fall behind the bed? And yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Kyo backstory is literally around the corner. So I'm very much looking forward to that if that's coming. But I'm also looking forward to the way in which this will potentially pull the lid off of some questions that could be really interesting around the idea of Tohru and the Soma family in general.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Tohru being this involved with them now is not a coincidence.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know that there's definitely some manipulators in this scene, in this story in general. So
say it isn't so.
Yeah, I'm worried for my heart, but I'm excited for these characters to have some pretty interesting developments. Y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. All right, well, guys, just to preface this discussion here, we took a really long break after that episode because that did not only a number on us individually, but collectively. Jacob and I have a lot of past trauma ourselves with regards to our mom, and all kinds of other stuff in this episode basically like triggered some serious some serious stuff just in general. So bear with us for this discussion.
Right. There might be certain elements in the discussion that we don't want to fully go into or explore because because that's
sometimes a story hits so strong on their character's unique specific problem that it hits almost at the archetype of some aspects of what trauma itself is, that it can be then correlated out to a million different things in real life and making it very much a oh shit, this area is very much a not like a sore spot, but no, this is fucking raw to try and bring some levity into it.
Right, and I really appreciated the levity that they did have in the episode as a way to just kind of have little bits to come up for air because
and prepare us really for the doozy that was the last 5 minutes of the episode.
Yeah, and this is something where I feel like this kind of thing is important to talk about every once in a while because we can go to stories looking to basically
be entertained,
but also go to that place of emotional turbulence, but having the safety of it being behind a screen, behind a book page, something like that. And so we can go into that place and then have it not be a problem because we can put it down whenever we want.
But we can still explore.
Right? It's a test run. It's a safety net. It's an
introspective journey on which that you basically get to have an adventure where there are a form of protective rails that keep you from losing yourself in some kind of potential dark cave because
emotional safety basically.
Yeah, a lot of stories will showcase how a character's despair led them to their wits' end, to the end of their rope basically. And Sometimes despair is something that is actually really helpful to perceive in a fictional character because you then realize the hope and potential there is for you, and you can gain strength this way.
Exactly, and that's why or at least that's my perspective on why humans love stories so much, right? Is because we can see the plights of these fictional characters, see them overcome or whatever, see their shortcomings, and then we can use that in our own lives to just help better understand ourselves, our place in society, each other, all that.
And even if it's not effective in any grand way, still the exploration of that has value and meaning that can be felt long after the immediacy or even the usefulness of whatever that stuff that you gained from the story is. But there are times
where it does that kind of too well. It goes into territory where maybe you think you're ready for it and maybe you're not, right?
Maybe you're not.
And that varies wildly from person to person, because like there were things in this episode, like yes, the last 5 minutes were crazy, but there were just little details of how
little bits of dialogue
in particular with Kyo, where I started to realize not too long into the episode that, oh shit! Like this is, I don't know if
I'm not ready for this. Right? Yeah. I feel like Fruits Basket is a show that has thus far given us a lot of good faith with regards to how it handles its own characters.
Yep.
There's been definitely some shortcomings for sure where we were like,
that feels a bit unfortunate.
Feels a bit unfortunate, but with especially the main cast, like the main core trio, and then the characters that are lightly adjacent to those core characters, handled extremely well. So the foreshadowing and build up for why is Kyo the way he is?
Yeah.
Well,
God,
his mother killed herself because she couldn't stand to even behold him, to even see him for who he was. She just recited the jargon of what a loving mother would say, and with no real soul or connection to it from his perspective. Now, what's really important here is it doesn't matter what the reality of the situation was with her. She's gone. That happened, and that was brutal. But the fact that, from Kyo's perspective, he was effectively the baby that was never held.
Right. And even worse, it's the pretending to hold him so that way his hopes get up. He doesn't necessarily realize what the problem is, right? Like you said, it would have been easier if she had hated me, right?
Yeah.
Like
only loved a part of me.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Just a little bit.
Right, because if it's just loving a part of him and being upfront and honest about that, then that's at least something that he can latch onto, communicate with, and he can believe in that, right? That okay, at least I know that she does love this part of me, right?
Right.
There's this other part that's tough, and maybe that can then be dealt with or addressed.
I'm scared of that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I'm worried about that too.
Yep.
Please do that part with me.
And the thing that absolutely there were a lot of things that broke me about this episode, and even as I think about it, continued to break me. But the mom was really trying. She was this wasn't something where she was a terrible mother.
Right, exactly.
It's something where she did the best she could. She really tried, but the thing is, she didn't acknowledge her own shortcomings. And this is why I love this episode, not just as an episode for Kyo, but as development for Tohru. Because Tohru, she did the exact same thing that you would do.
Yep.
And she killed herself.
Yep.
And so, of course, Kyo wants to get out of this place, right? Because he doesn't trust, like, this kind of stuff.
Well, he doesn't even necessarily sure he can trust Tohru. Like,
yeah, totally.
Like, in a lot of ways, it's too familiar. It's too close.
Yep. And, oh, hey, like, as far as a way to make me completely about face on a character, without them even being a focus of the episode.
Right.
This makes me like Kagura so
much more.
Yeah. Because, yes, it's absolutely smothering and everything. Yes, it doesn't make sense. Yes, it freaks Kyo out.
Yep. Wonder why.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why it's so important. Maybe that's why Kagura is so stubborn with it. But at the same time, she realizes that there is a way to take it too far.
Yep.
Hence why she hasn't been in the show recently.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I love it. It's so simple. The idea that we have the most powerful thing in this world being the main theme of this episode, love. The idea that Kyo, over the course of his life, did not receive his mother's love. Regardless of whether or not his mother loved him
to give it.
truly or only at 70% or 10% or 0%, it does not matter. Whatever she was giving, he was incapable of receiving it. It's not your fault, Kyo.
Right.
This is the kind of thing that is not just like traumatizing in the sense that it's a localized memory, But this is the kind of thing that defines a lot of people.
Like when it kept on showing the way that she would grab the hand and check the bracelet, check the bracelet, check the bracelet. Yep. It felt like a much messier version of in like Tangled, whenever Mother Gothel would like specifically show the affection to Rapunzel's hair, right?
To her hair, yeah.
Rather than to her, you know, because But the thing is that in the mother's case, in the same way that she wasn't really looking at him, she wasn't really looking at herself, right? Because she wouldn't want to think that she was the kind of person that would resolve the love of her son to not seeing her son fully, to just, does he have the bracelet, right? Mm-hmm. You know, it's just a subconscious thing where it's like well, you know, this thing that I don't really look at, you know, of, oh God, I actually am scared of my child, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it just ends up manifesting in little ways of, oh, she just checks the bracelet, a casual thing that doesn't necessarily need to mean much. And if she had just done it the once or twice, it probably wouldn't have to Kyo either, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, no, but it kept happening, right? Again and it became this monster of her own where she didn't have control of it. And I will bet you anything, even though it wasn't shown or gone into in this episode, because of course Kyo wouldn't know and the rest of them wouldn't either. Nope. Is that the reason she killed herself, Kyo, was not because of you, not because of your form, but because of how she responded to your form that she was unable to live with, right? Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's why it happened. Yep. Right? Yeah. Because 100%. even as she realized that it was this dark monster that had formed inside of her, she wasn't able to face it, wasn't capable of facing it, wasn't willing to face it, or even open up that she was facing it. Mm-hmm. And as a result, she dealt with it alone, and it beat her.
Yeah. And the scary thing about this is that we don't know what kind of help she was getting.
Nope.
We got the potential father figure person that was saying, like, your mother really did love you or something like that.
Yeah, more than anything else.
More than anything else. Maybe she was trying to get help with this, but she kept subconsciously checking the bracelet. Yep. She probably was, like, banging her head against the wall at, like, other times when he wouldn't be around, like at school or something else, and just like, why can't I just get over this?
Because she still clings to him, right? She holds him tight, right? But it's that part of just looking the other way that ended up really being the killer, right?
Yeah, I am such an advocate in general for this, especially once your child is capable of understanding like emotional concepts, of telling your child every once in a while that you're scared or I'm worried, showing
your
that
own weakness,
you are capable of feeling emotions that society deems negative, and not going into the, well, it's because of my trauma with my parents or something like that, right? Guarding maybe the reasons entirely, but just letting them know
it's okay to feel those things.
Yeah. I'm sad right now. Could I get a hug from you? Can you imagine? Imagine if the mother had been capable of just being like, hey, baby, I'm scared. Yeah. I'm worried. I don't know how this is going to work out. Yep. I need you right now.
Yeah, can you imagine how awesome that would have made Kyo feel? Because then regardless of whether or not she can, you know, accept his true form, right? Because and I love that there were a lot of things that specifically the idea of the smell being not just the visuals, because
that's a really powerful communicator.
Yeah, because there's something in sort of the
biological makeup of humans.
The human societal structure thought process that basically shames anyone who would be worried about someone because of their looks, right?
Right.
Because a lot of horrible shit has happened as a result of that, right?
Yes.
But as a result, there's this lack of acceptance of those kinds of things when they happen, and then they get locked up in the dark closet to grow, and they aren't dealt with.
Yeah.
The idea of smell, I feel like, is a really good one to show that it's not necessarily something the person can control, right? If you see something scary, it's a lot different seeing it in person than seeing it in an anime episode, right?
If I see a spider, I will viscerally, respond on some level internally, but I don't necessarily have the lack of self-control to always show that, if that makes sense. That's a weird way to say it negative, but basically
people are not perfect, and there will be points where they are where they may try even, but it's just not enough, right?
Right. But if I smell bile, for instance.
Yeah, smell is something that's a lot harder to get away from, right? You can't look away from that. You can't like that's something.
You can hold your breath.
You could hold your breath maybe, but how long can you do that, right? And I feel like that was a great way to kind of cut past the potential, like, oh, well, you have a child that looks different,
right.
Suck it up, right? To the no. Even Tohru, when she sees him,
vomited.
Yeah, even
like
though
minutes later,
even though she loves Kyo, right, and she chased after him and everything. Her own body started to give out, and she had a vomiting fit at the root of a tree, right?
Right,
like that was something that happened, and she didn't have any control over that, right? Now, of course, that's the kind of thing that, especially if you're a mom, you wouldn't want your child to see or whatever. But it's not something that you can just pretend isn't there.
Right. And an example of this that I've seen in a lot of real life situations, I used to basically, when I was like doing more like kind of volunteer work and stuff like that, I would work with kids basically.
Oh, okay.
I was usually a volunteer to help with like kids in like a classroom setting and stuff like that. And these were like 7, 8-year-olds, like 6, 7, 8-year-olds, And one of the things that would be like very common with kids that were from families or what have you that were not as fortunate, basically, and would end up coming there and stuff like that, is that the kids wouldn't be bathed, basically. They wouldn't be showered. And kids at that age are just responding to their biological impulses of like, oh, this tastes good. Oh, this smells bad.
Right.
And and I remember an instance where there was a kid that was getting like pushed around, and it was literally because like he smelled bad. Like he did smell bad. And we would have to basically like pick up the kid, hold on to him and stuff. Like kind of, he's a little sitting right there and stuff. And it smelled awful. And like, we're not going to do like anything to be able to rectify that. Like that's something that we're just going to have to handle.
Right.
But like in some ways, even back then, I had this issue with my my nasal passages where my smell capacity is like percentage, like slashed, like a huge portion of it. So I could hold the kid and I could stomach it. Like I could stomach it just fine. But there were other assistants, other volunteers there and stuff that couldn't actually stay too close to him for like a long period of time. So that's very much a thing. Yeah.
And so having that as a way to cut to the chase of how serious of an issue this is, not just for Kyo because he has to deal with it, but of how difficult it would be for the loved ones of Kyo to try and figure out how to, strike some kind of balance, in this craziness. When on top of things, it's already, we've had it established that it's already hard enough when your child is a regular member of the Zodiac, right? When it's oh no, my child is a bunny, right? Why is that? I can't embrace my child without them turning into an animal, right? Like that's and what that must do, right? So
in this case, where she can actually embrace him on some level because of the bracelet rosary seal thing there.
Yeah, because then he just turns into a cat.
Yeah. But even then, he wasn't. Like, you notice in the thing that he never transformed into a cat. And I want to say, this is a small little detail here. Small little detail. I'll have to go back and check in the previous episodes. But Kyo has transformed into a cat before from getting embraced. Therefore, there's a possibility that what's being subtly implied is that the mother was not truly embracing him.
Right. That there was an immeasurable difference in the embrace that made it so that it didn't actually make him transform. Which, by the way, if you're a kid and you have any kind of awareness that is that you transform when embraced or things like that,
right.
And then your parent embraces you and you don't, what will that do to your psyche? Like, and now granted, she kept him very secluded and sheltered and everything like that, right? So who knows, maybe he didn't have that firm of an understanding of it. But like, I
have on another really random like kid story note and stuff like that, one of the things that we would kind of see a couple times, and this is a thing that I feel like I have to be careful because it's not something I'm speaking with any like kind of imperial evidence or what have you. But there would be these sheltered kids that we would also work with as well. And one of the things that was very commonly found out about these kids is they would get bathed like 3 or 4 times like a day. Like these are the kids where it's like never our little Johnny will never touch dirt. They'll never have any kind of things and stuff like that. And in some ways they had like sterilized their kid from human interaction and stuff.
Right.
So the fact that they would come into environments that we would be like, hey, help you interact with other kids and stuff, you'd see them basically have this like aversion to like contact.
Right, because the parents actually did them a disservice and that they don't know how to integrate into society. And in a and oh god,
it's just this just brings up so many memories and things of seeing kids that I either got to see again 5 to 10 years later and like things did not go well because of the way they were clearly raised, but other times where it's like, oh my god, if you can just love someone at that point, even when they're in the midst of that horrific fucked up upbringing,
that can change their whole life.
Change their life.
And it's
just we got to see
we got to see that here.
We got to see it here. So the last scene. I just want to gush about this here because I feel like we were talking more about the meta of the story than the literal events that happened. But I mean, you guys saw the reaction. We watched the events. This was
a rough episode.
This was a rough episode. But the transformation was one that was okay. This feels like a monstrous transformation. It informs some things about the world building with potential of why the cat is shunned or.
Did that happen because the cat couldn't make it to the place, and that's why Kyo hates Yuki, or something like that?
There's a lot of stuff that's being implied there, but we'll probably get more details about that later. But the fact that Tohru chases him down, finds him, and the scene of her crawling up the hill, and then he strikes her so hard, that she it almost looked like she nearly broke her arm.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of blood
shoulder.
Under her shirt. Yeah,
got sent into the little bits of flooded water here, thankfully, so it wasn't as rough of a landing.
Right,
because I mean, anime bludgeoning damage is apparently not a thing.
Which is okay, I'm very thankful for that
here.
But at the same time, that was a dirty ass trick to do something to Tohru that would kill a regular person.
Right. Or at the very least shatter bones.
Right, exactly.
I don't care how squishy
do some long lasting damage.
Is. Yeah, exactly. But the way in which he starts crying out for himself, stop it, don't force that love on me, I don't need it. I don't need it. And then she gets this renewed vigor after she runs. She was going away from him.
Yeah, and
because I think her body probably was so scared internally. That I don't think this was a thing where she was giving up on Kyo at all.
Right, it's I want to do this, but
I can't. I can't bring myself back up there. And I nearly died.
Yep, I nearly died, and he doesn't want me up there, or at least he says he doesn't want me up there, and that's one of the tough things because there are a few things more painful and in a way hopeless than trying to love someone who
doesn't want to be loved,
who does not believe they are, who doesn't want to be loved, does not, for whatever reason, whether they don't think they're worthy of love, whether they don't want to have the absence of love, if they accept it, for whatever reason.
Never dealt with that before.
And that's much more common than I would think a lot of people realize, right? And there is basically nothing that you can do except what Tohru does here. But the thing is that this is an element of Tohru's stubbornness that is to a fault to a degree, because anime physics, bludgeoning damage doesn't count, right? She was able to still do that. If Kyo had actually followed through on what he said he was going to do when she did that, I would not have wanted Tohru to go back to him, right?
Exactly.
And the thing is that while it makes for dramatic climactic conflict in an anime episode, it's not as easy and cut and dry as that, where, you know, someone does the thing once and then you go back to them and then everything's fine, right? You know, they will absolutely push back harder
again and again
and get dirty and underhanded with it, right?
There's no guarantee at all.
Yep.
And for the sake of expediency, it worked immediately.
Right.
But I almost would have been, like, impressed if they started showing a montage.
God.
Just to show the fact that he was, like, striking her over and over and over again, and she kept going back up.
And the thing is that that's something where that's also for storytelling purposes. There's probably other reasons why they don't do that.
Yep.
It'd be very hard to keep Kyo as a sympathetic character, right, if he continues to hurt Tohru like that. It's almost like it's hard to love someone when they continue to do stuff like that, right? And that's why it's important, because if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? If it was easy, they wouldn't have this issue with it in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
Jacob.
You know, even in a situation like this where she ends up being able to reach him, he accepts her love for a bit, right? That doesn't mean the situation is completely resolved, right? More realistically, you would have, you know, outbursts and things like this almost on the regular, right? And you would think that maybe the situation is finally addressed, the wound has been healed or whatever, and then suddenly it crops up again bigger than ever because, you know, there was some part of it that they didn't deal with because...
Or maybe it was made easier because of the fact that he's definitely in love with Tohru. Yeah,
exactly, right? So maybe he's not entirely addressing the root issue, you know, and then all of a sudden...
He's just able to receive her love.
Right, he's just able to receive her love. Like, there was a movie that I watched. It was a Steve Carell movie where basically his son gets addicted to, like, a bunch of, like hard drugs and stuff like that, right?
Is this the one where he goes hiking?
I don't know, but I can't remember what it was called, but you know, and it's this very, very hard emotional plight of this father trying to basically reach his son because you know, his son then starts to go away and, like, separate himself from you know, his father because, you know, all this stuff, right? And the thing is that it, you know, it wasn't a happy story, right? No. It's not a thing of where, yes, and then in the end, love and family triumphs, right? That's not how it works. It's pain and punishment, one after the other, right? Like, just again and again and again. But hopefully, with stories like this, where things are done in a more simplified way, where they're fantastical, right? Where we have that layer of separation of the screen, of the animals, right? You know, of all of that, then that can give us that lesson that we need to maybe have the courage to be Tohru in these situations to the extent that we are capable, and to acknowledge the ways in which we might not be capable, because I love that was what Tohru had to do in order to reach him, right?
Yes.
She had to say, I'm scared, it hurts, right? All the things that she hasn't done so far in this show. When, you know, when the animal bites her, right? And she's like, nope, it doesn't hurt. That doesn't really let you connect with the person, right? That can do you for a spell. It can address some of the symptoms and make it seem like you are, but that only works maybe at the outset.
In some ways, Kyo, you might have taught her the right way to handle this, by expressing your needs in a beautiful way. The fact that this is such a source of pain for you forced you to communicate at such a pure and honest level that she was then able to help you in the way that you directly needed, and not in the way that she typically would do, because that wouldn't work. She'd have to be honest. She'd have to showcase her full vulnerability in this case, that she's not capable of understanding necessarily, that she's not necessarily able to not be scared of you, that she, you know, that this is something that she wants to try. She wants to live life with you. She wants to go through all this process.
And who knows if this one in particular will work out. Now, since it's getting a story told about it, I'm assuming it will, right? Because otherwise,
absolutely.
You know, there's a reason the story doesn't follow, you know, Kazuma's grandpa, right? Or Kyo's mom, right? Because those are the situations where it didn't work. Right,
and they're important to be acknowledged
that they did happen, and that it didn't work out. Because in the case of Kazuma, can you imagine what it must be like for this kid? Now, granted, grandpa is a bit more distant from, like, say, a mom,
father or a mother,
right? But he sees this relative who he wants to be close with that keeps himself locked in a cage, right? And now it's affected his life enough to the point where when he sees Kyo, he's like, I need to help this kid, right? I need to, right?
Yeah.
Who know, like back when he was dealing with his grandpa, he might have thought, what's the point of all this, right? Is there any good thing that could come from this?
Yeah.
And in the immediate sense, maybe not, right? We don't know what the end story of his grandpa was. We know what the end story of Kyo's mom was, right?
We know that the grandfather died alone. That's what we know.
Right.
And probably in that cage.
Yep. So not exactly a great ending, right?
No.
But hey, some of the pain that came about from those moments, right, made it so that Kazuma was able to help Kyo, and Kyo was helped by it. There is no way that Kyo would have been able to do this, without Kazuma having helped him, grow up and get stronger and all that stuff before now.
The way in which freaking Kyo just lit up when Kazuma gave him the head scratch, the head pat, was just this thing of like, yes, this is exactly what I've needed and always wanted. And, man, now knowing Kyo's backstory, there's so much about him that just makes perfect sense. And
looking at Kyo and the way he was before, you never would have expected necessarily for something as traumatizing as his mother killing herself because of him to, be something that he had to deal with, right? But that's the thing. You never know. And that kind of stuff affects people for, and it can happen real early, but it absolutely has a huge effect on their life, forever, right? Like you might be able to get to the point where you can deal with that, reconcile it and stuff, but it never goes away, right?
Yeah.
So,
I loved Kyo's little monologue that basically was the way to end the episode, where he then talks about what he what he wishes. He can't help it. This is something that he's always wanted. He talks about the things with regards to his mother. This is his form of reconciliation, and this was triggered by Tohru's love. But the idea then that they can share this moment of vulnerability together, and it was in the context of not just I acknowledge your love for me, but I fully receive it. And now I'm going to basically let you do life with me, the real me, because I just can't believe I get to do life with you.
Yep.
This was my wish all along. And I just love that we showed this passage of time, right? And, this is an anime episode, so passage of time is really quick, right?
Sure.
It's not important to know where the time skip happened, basically.
How long the storm was or anything like that, yeah.
But the idea that Kazuma stayed out the whole night just clutching the rosary, probably just doing his own form of a prayer or something for his boy.
Right. Did I make the right choice?
Because he was making a huge risk here.
Huge risk. And in some ways, I would say that, for the sake of the dramatic tension of the episode, he did something that was very much not a good idea, which is he sprung it on Kyo. He had it be something that takes Kyo by surprise. With something like this, where it's this big of an aspect of your life, you do not fight that battle without a healthy amount of prep time to be like, okay, yes, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, there are some context things that I believe that they're hinting at, though, by the fact that he sprung it on Kyo, and these are the ones that I think make the most sense. One, there is a possibility that Tohru won't be around forever, and then two, Tohru might not be like this forever, given how much the Soma family already kind of has their hands on her.
Gotcha.
In a way that she's kind of being pulled by all of them to be like, you're so wonderful, you're just doing all these things for us, and she's just giving. And I think that on some level, Kazuma can kind of see the nature of Tohru, and he's like,
sure,
this is supernatural. Like, I have wished myself that someone like you would come along for my son, basically. Right. I'm sorry, but I care about my son more than I care about you. And I really do want the best for you, Tohru, because I can tell that if you and Kyo stay
woe be me
together,
to get in the way.
Yes, exactly. But I am still going to put a bit of a test on you without any prep. because
Sure.
it's almost important that you don't see this in some kind of a prepped test way, because if Kyo is somehow able to doubt that this was something that like they're trying to set him up for, he might not even believe what Tohru brings.
That's a great point. And also there's the whole idea of, okay, Kyo might totally run away because that's what he tried to do, immediately.
Right.
But the closer he gets to Tohru without Tohru passing this test, the worse it could potentially go. Because, and so there is an importance in this being dealt with sooner rather than later.
Yes, not urgency, but definitely a sooner rather than later situation.
Right, like can you imagine? Now, granted, it's a story, and this is the story where eventually things will go right. That's why this story's being told, probably. But could you imagine if this happened at like the end of like season 2 or midway through season 3, and we actually didn't know Tohru that well. It doesn't go well. And then, after all of this time that they've spent together, right, she ends up not being able to accept Kyo. What would that do to him, right?
Yeah, he would rampage and probably end up taking his own life.
Yep, probably. Yeah. Now, granted, this is a show that's written by an author and stuff, so of course they're not going to do that, right? But the idea of from the characters in this world, if that were to be something that happened, it would absolutely destroy Kyo.
Yeah, and I'm so glad things went this way. I'm so glad it happened at this time. I am really excited, though, about that very subtle bit of Akito focus of, this is the form? Disgusting. Now, what I like about this is, one, it reinforces the fuck Akito, hashtag.
Let's break his legs,
Yeah. Let's break his legs, but also, two, the idea that Akito found out about it. The idea that Akito didn't, just, that's the thing with the cat. It's the, this is your form?
Right, so theoretically it could be a different form with each cat, which I would say actually is probably the case, which makes sense, because if you have, it's not like each member of the Zodiac is the same breed of animal, right? It's just the spirit manifests in some way, right?
Yeah. And the idea that Akito was in Kyo's kind of background memory, kind of backstory stuff with regards to this, when really the plot doesn't seem to care whether or not Akito was involved,
right?
Because he's not really a part of Kyo's trauma.
Maybe it's that Akito's response helped isolate his mother and make her not feel like she could really handle it, but she had to, and all that stuff, which then helped drive her to kill herself. You know?
I'm really curious to see if they're setting up something where Kyo's form, which is a curse in some instances, and this is a very common fantasy trope.
Sure,
but the curse becoming your strength. Is something that I could very easily see becoming a thing where
he uses it to beat the shit out of Akito.
Yeah. Akito might not literally be disgusted by it.
But also feel threatened.
But feel a little bit threatened by it, because I want to put really in a little bit of a world building thing here. Given that the cat is someone that failed the Zodiac, ritual stuff or whatever.
Right.
Because of the rats,
it was late to the appointment.
Yeah, exactly. The Zodiac members seem to have this deep, ingrown, innate fear of Akito.
Right.
There's something there.
And you don't just get that because they're the financial head of the family or something.
Akito has a measure of control, a very sick form of twisted control over the Soma clan, all the Zodiacs and everything like that. But I want to throw out the possibility that because Kyo has this form, Akito can't control him.
I like it.
And this is
and that's why he's not welcome at the home and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's the idea of, yes, you have the black sheep of the family kind of situation.
But there's more to it.
But there might be more to it than that on the supernatural side, where it's actually that, by them going back, and this works so well from the meta standpoint, if you show up to the family dinner, basically, with regularity, you're basically showing that I am a member of the family.
Sure.
I will submit to the matriarch, patriarch, whatever kind of structure of the family order.
I believe in this organization, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. But by maybe not being there, and given that there's a supernatural element involved in this story, maybe that's a key, actually, to where the Soma clan and family by extension could be made free.
Okay.
Without necessarily there being some insane consequences on them individually. So say if like Shigure doesn't show up or what have you, then it's not going to be a thing where he'll die or he'll be cursed in some ways like Kyo. But I could see this being a thing that they would then use as a forcing function to bring the conflict with Akito into a direct measure.
Because one of the things that Kyo's form also brings onto the table is how is a disparity that there can be between the members of the Zodiac with regards to the capabilities strength-wise of their forms, right? I'm sorry, but Hattori, your form is not going to be able to send Tohru flying, right? Like that's not going to happen.
I was like, what? Hattori? What? Oh yeah. The weakest of the four.
Yeah, like that. That's just. That's not going to happen.
I love that whole thing of he's the dragon.
Sea dragon. Oh,
sea dragon.
Okay. Yes. Tiny little thing, right?
But living space.
But if Akito has something of a similar caliber, right, when it comes to being able to physically enact his will.
Even if it's not like literal right-handed power where he can lift a rock, basically, heavier than, Kyo can lift, basically, but it's more of the, I can control your mind, I can...
Any of those things, right? There's lots of different ways that it can happen. Because,
I have magic of some kind.
Because the longer the dysfunction in the Soma family goes, the more we want it to be something where the other family members literally
step up,
but also are kind of being held hostage, not just social pressure that they don't want to.
Yeah, I very much feel like it's a hostage situation for a lot of them because we've brought up the idea of how scary it is if two members love each other, basically.
Right, because it almost seemed like that was something that could potentially be tied to the curse.
Well, that was the thing.
Or the breaking of the curse.
Well, no,
or something?
that's the thing. There is a curse.
Right.
That is a nondescript thing that is just there. We don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. I could see Kyo's form being a representation of the curse.
Yeah.
But it's his part of it, basically.
Right, like maybe it's something where and maybe this is why Akito also lashes out at people so much.
Because he's affected by it as well.
He's affected by it too, so he basically kicks Kyo out, right? Mm-hmm. And then he's the one, sort of male lion in the pride, basically. Right?
Sure.
And then the whole idea of the breaking of the curse, right? Because they mentioned that maybe Tohru could help with that or something.
Oh, yeah, maybe it's not on all the members. It might be just primarily on Akito.
Sure, and maybe that's where he lashes out negatively against those sorts of things because it's I want to be comfortable in my own despair, basically. You know? And so anytime someone else wants to leave, wants to have their own life, wants to be happy, then I drag them back down.
Yeah. I very much see him as the black hole of darkness in this story, where it's somewhere in there is a crying little boy.
Right.
Somewhere crushed beneath the weight of all of this stuff is a crying little boy, man-child that needs to be maybe a bit,
get some
woken up,
a
little bit. But before that, they need to deal with the more, immediate physical problem of, we have a really fucked up family situation here.
Right.
How do we handle that on the individual basis?
There is a physical threat,
Right. And so now Kyo being put into this direction here almost makes me feel like we're starting to have our squad built up.
Yeah.
We now see really the power of Tohru here. Mm-hmm. We now really see the power of Kyo here in this instance. We really see, in a lot of ways, how Shigure is really important in setting up this kind of an environment, and then having other people that are not Zodiac members, like Kazuma, being there in a relationship capacity for Zodiac members who are dealing with their shit, basically.
Right.
But can be there for them to basically set them on a new path.
Yeah.
And give them a form of renewal. I'm really, really excited for this because this was also not the finale. I thought
That's true.
I thought that this
it
might
was
have been
be
a
a
thing
two-parter.
that would be a two-parter, and we would end with, Kyo just leaving, and then it's this whole thing of, okay, now we need to go save him, but now...
Let's have the final episode just be a really wholesome, sweet episode where literally nothing happens. There is no
really?
emotional conflict whatsoever. Because
if Akito doesn't basically like put his foot down in some way because of this, I'm going to be surprised.
Okay,
I really think Akito will be the finale reveal of sorts in the next episode, and that it's going to be this
make
thing,
sense.
and that it's this thing of where it's like, okay, this is too much. Hattori, I need you to wipe Tohru's memory, and then it's this thing of where Hattori maybe goes like, no, fuck you. And then he just kills him or something. I could actually see something of that scale happening.
I feel like if Akito ever gets to the point where he actually kills one of the family members, then his head's on the table.
But maybe they can't do anything. Like literally, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I honestly think that that's why Shigure is such a schemer. Is that he needs to trick Akito. Like he cannot fight him any other way.
Right.
Like it's that level.
And I don't think that Fruits Basket is going to be the kind of show that resolves things in like a
with
fight.
A shonen battle kind of thing.
It doesn't seem like that's the kind of style.
Conversation.
Conversation. But at the same time, we could definitely be the reason for why the conflict has been perpetuated is that Akito, him beating the shit out of you with his bare hands is far preferable to if he were to actually use his powers or something like that, right? But
okay,
this episode,
I love Kazuma though.
Rough.
Just gotta say that
Kazuma's awesome.
I want Kazuma to be in the story. All the time. I
seeing Kyo like that was
special.
Was special, and at the same time, one of the more painful things of the episode for me actually.
Yeah.
Because when you see him like that, one, he's not like that all the time. Two, that is in response to something that we might, we haven't seen yet.
Totally.
Right?
But y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access. You can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.